If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Welcome to the My Name is Human podcast, brought to you by Earth2News.com. This is an Earth2.io podcast. I am Human Hazy.
And I am Human Kangy.
And how are we doing today, Kangy?
I'm doing pretty well. I am very excited for what we've got on the agenda. How are you doing, Hazy?
Good. Do have a little news up that I need to clear up. So I did leave E2.news. That was nothing personal. Those guys are great. But I really it felt like more becoming like a grind to me, more like a job. And that's not what I wanted to turn this into. I didn't feel like having to crank out 2 to 3 articles a day was really productive. And, I just kind of want to write articles when they come up and that interest me. And if I don't have anything, I don't have anything. So love those guys. I think they're going to crush it, but everything's going to be on earth2news.com. And the 2 is spelled out TWO. And it's going to be hosting the podcast and our sponsor. And if you want to sponsor us, we're always welcome to pimp your site out. So give me a holler if you're interested in that.
Yeah, very excited about the new website. But as you said, those guys are wonderful. Still check out their site all the time. But earth2news.com, baby. Let's get it going.
All right. So the main topic that we're going to talk about, and I already know it's going to be the title of my podcast because it was the title of the article I wrote this morning. It's go time.
And what does go time mean to you? We're dealing with not so cryptic information here, but I'll lob it up for you. What do you mean by go time?
All right. Well, for Shane, it was cryptic, or he thought so. But people at Earth2.io are pretty smart, and I think it's pretty much been figured out. And clue after clue. So Shane had a tweet basically with some codes in there, basically all capital letters on certain things. And basically through a method of elimination, it's kind of almost certain that Earth2 is going to be doing something with GoChain. And the final nail on the head was the founder and CTO of GoChain followed Shane Isaac on Twitter today.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that for people that have been, super anxious, maybe a word for it, about whether or not we would see Earth2 getting affiliated with blockchain or crypto in some way, this has to be a step in the right direction, right?
It does, and I mean, there's obviously concerns, and I know I just listened to or watched Bull Combo's video that he released talking about this, and his concern was that they're going to convert e-dollars into a token, and that would be a problem for me, especially because to take $15,000 that I have put into the game and to convert it into a random token would not please me in the least bit, because the value is not nearly as safe as the US dollar is.
Right. I do think that, crypto is known for volatility. I mean, it's certainly known as a speculative way to make a tremendous amount of money, but it's highly volatile. And then we also think about the competition entering the space and what it's going to take for this project to succeed. And I think that what my fear would be is that if you're converting your e-dollars into crypto, you've now sort of got these two different flight risks as opposed to just one. Right now, our flight risk is people lose interest and they just take their money and go elsewhere, right? But if you also have a currency tied to it, there's now this second thing that you need faith in, right? You need faith in the platform itself, faith in the game, but you also now need faith in a separate currency from the US dollar.
Right, and Combo's point was that the Earth2 platform right now isn't developed. Decentraland and Mana is a developed platform. There is things where you can see growth. So that's not really happening on Earth2 yet. So to tie it directly to e-dollars would be problematic. But that's not what I think is going to happen. What I think is going to happen is E2 is going to do their own token, but it's going to be independent of the e-dollars. I think it's probably going to be tied somehow to Essence. And the reason I say that is in that cryptic tweet of Shane's, ENC kind of popped up independent. And I think that's going to kind of be the token name. And it's going to be kind of, you can kind of see where ENC is kind of related to Essence. And so I asked Combo about that. I asked him, I'm like, what do you think if E2 decides to do their own token, but it's independent of e-dollars? And he said he thinks that would be the wisest route if they create their own. He knows Shane mentioned rewarding people for leaving their balance in E2 with sort of hints that they might do something else. And he's right about that, but things have a way of changing. And I think if they tie Essence into the token, that's the way he can still reward people for having a balance in E2. Maybe it's not the same way as having e-dollars converted to something of value, but your property is going to generate Essence and you're going to benefit from that.
Right, and I think that personally, I think that makes a lot more sense just when you think about the continuity and the fluidity of the game and what this whole platform is supposed to be. If it's tied to your properties, that's what we've all been dealing with, right? That's what we're all familiar with. To your point regarding what this platform currently is, really all it is the properties. So to have the potential coin tied to Essence or something with your properties, to me makes a lot more sense than the money left in your account, because it's just that. It's just sort of money left in sort of a bizarro realm bank account. And I just don't know that is, to me, that makes less sense fundamentally.
And for people like you and me, if we have money left in our two account, what do we do with it?
Oh, we spend it on more tiles.
Exactly.
I'm working on getting more Essence. That's the thing, is when it comes to being, quote unquote invested in the game, I think of it as having tiles, because
for
even
sure.
when people were doing stuff like in December where they would buy tiles in mass and try to pump and people would gripe, my thought the whole time was, if they keep on buying these tiles, once they're bought, they're off the market. So that's really the incentive, is once tiles have been purchased, they are now in the user's hands. And so whereas if they're sitting in your account, you could just take that money out.
Yeah, and that's why tying it to the blockchain to Essence makes a lot more sense to me than tying it. Like I have $14.04 in e-dollars right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure that if you found the right $14.04 plot, it'd be out the door too.
No, I'll wait till it's about 30 or 40. 14 is usually not enough to get anything substantial. So
very true, very true.
Yeah,
but my point. We're looking for ways to continue to reinvest more than we're looking for ways to get our money out of the platform. So
yeah, I mean, for example, like I put in 15,400, and my actual value of invested dollars is like almost 21,000 now, and that 5,600 comes from basically me turning properties over.
Right. And I mean, that's a pretty damn good ROI. Oops, sorry, wasn't supposed to swear, but that is that wasn't too bad of a swear, but that's a great return on investment. And if you're seeing that, why wouldn't you continue to invest that money back into the platform, especially if it does go this way where, our properties and Essence is all tied into, sort of the blockchain and our crypto futures. Continuing to invest just makes that much more sense.
Yeah, and so neither you and I are crypto experts. So I'm a novice at it. My dumb, and I'm gonna swear here, my dumb ass about 8 years ago had 70 Bitcoin that I'd won on a poker site, and basically it had tripled in value, but it started to dip. I'm like, good time to get out. So I sold it for $600. So yeah, I'm not a crypto expert.
I mean, I think a lot of people have stories like that. So you're in on this one, Hazy. So that's what really matters.
I'm holding.
Yes, there we go.
I'm not making that mistake twice. I'm either going broke or getting rich as F.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, hold until the absolute end. Well, one thing before I move on, I really don't have much more thought on this other than I'm excited for the fact that I think it'll put a lot of people's fears at ease. I think a lot of people have been hoping for this sort of announcement, and I know that it could go one way or the other in terms of how it's executed and how it's integrated into the platform. But I think that, for lack of a better phrase, something that sounds a little more intelligent, I'm excited anytime other people are excited. So if this is
Yeah,
generating enthusiasm, then I'm all for it.
and the one thing it will do, I think, will bring more people in, people that are crypto enthusiasts. I think that'll get them excited for coming onto the site and buying tiles and creating some marketplace buzz. So I think that'll be a positive impact.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, one thing, Hazy, that we talked about a little bit is, continuing to take our money into the marketplace, continuing to buy tiles. And one thing that we were talking about leading up to this show is the idea of buying, for lack of a better term, decorated property, like hill art, for example. So these would be things that sort of look like artwork from the satellite photo. So things like the Nazca lines, if you're familiar with those in Peru, or you and I now have these items on our profile. And I hope I'm saying this right, the Fauvant badges in England, which are like artwork from World War One, basically.
Yeah, and so I was never really interested in looking at this decorated property until I saw the Joker, the real Joker, buy that horse.
Right, and you're talking about, and that's also in the UK. Um, I don't have the name up right this second, but let me get it up. It is the Devises Millennium White Horse.
Yeah, so when I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty unique, interesting, rare. So when you pointed out the Povant badges the other day, I'm like, oh, it's kind of funny you mentioned that because I've actually been researching decorated property, and I had actually bought a 16 tile bullseye in the middle of the desert in Nevada with nothing around it for $400 because it was unique and nothing like it, and you can see the bullseye from the satellite map. So I'm like, you know what? That's rare. It's unique, and I can see value for that. So I went ahead and overpaid probably for now's value, but I think in the long term it has potential. And I think the same thing with the Boban budgets. Like I didn't even hesitate. You're like, oh, I'm kind of on the fence. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna buy.
Yeah, you're much quicker on the trigger on those things. And yeah, as soon as you bought one, I was like, all right, I can't let Hazy be the only one on the block to get one of these.
Yeah, and so then I do have a good kind of friendly relationship with the real Joker. So I told him about it, and I said, conduct a social experiment. Buy one of those. Those. He's like, I would have bought them all, but I wanted to see how the experiment played out. So he bought one, and the rest sold out by the end of the day.
Yeah. So just goes to show, how much buzz and, I guess, enthusiasm there is around the real Joker's moves in particular. But
Yeah, people go to his profile and check him out, but he actually would have bought them all. That's how interested he is in this type of thing. So there is value in that.
right. And I mean, thinking about your bullseye, what if you were to be able to, on that specific property, have something related to, I don't know, first person shooter games or something like that, right?
Or
Something.
maybe Target.
I mean, hey, you could get an EPL going, and it is stateside, so there's something to be said about that.
Maybe that'll be number one on my spreadsheet list now.
There you go.
Of course, I just told everyone, so I'm doomed.
I mean, there's only so many people out there that can take all of your good ideas. And one of them, you'll be able to land one of them on the spreadsheet at least.
And we have less than 100 listeners, so odds are, hopefully that changes soon. But we're working on getting more people in.
For now, your big plans are a little bit more secret than they hopefully will be down the road.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think that anything that looks interesting from the satellite images, even though what's going to be in game, you and I agree, what's going to be in game is truly what matters. But in the short term, until we have the sort of ability to drop in through a VR headset, get into the game one way or the other, then things like the bullseye, things that look really interesting on the satellite images, I think there's something to be said for properties, if nothing else, their appeal on the marketplace, right?
Yeah, because I went Googling and looked up unique Google Map images, and like I went to a bunch and they were all taken.
Yeah, because other people were,
Doing the same thing.
similarly. Yeah, because it does, whether it has direct appeal to whoever's buying it or they're assuming that somebody else will want it, either way, things like that get snatched up because they do look so interesting from overhead. I know it sometimes I ended up buying um not necessarily like monuments or anything, but just would see a building that looked interesting and would buy it because it caught my eye from above. I was trying to get into a city I wasn't in and kind of went for the first thing that I saw.
Oh, while we're talking about the real Joker, something I found interesting about the GoChain CTO and founder, his Twitter avatar was Batman.
Right, I saw that in your article. Yeah,
I, that's kind of interesting, I thought.
yeah, I mean, I don't want
Any
to read too much into, a lot of people are interested in the Batman universe, but it's almost too much coincidence to ignore.
right, I know. Kind of interesting. So, what have you been up to on the marketplace this past week?
Well, as far as my activities, I have been liquidating a good amount of random class one plots that were just sort of scattered all over the place. Not because I don't value them, but because I'm trying to consolidate my profile a bit. I had like 450 properties at one point, so selling a lot of things that are under 100 tiles and then reinvesting both in um, some larger C1 plots, like things that are 250 tiles or larger. Especially in, I enjoy the micronation strategy, so there's been some of those purchases. And then I've also been buying, and we've talked about this in the last few weeks, heavily discounted class 2 and class 3 in more expensive nations. So today I've bought, for example, I've bought in China, France, um, United Kingdom, Japan. So some of these nations where class one is really, really expensive, but you might be able to get class two for 75, 80% off.
Or you
So
can just do what I did and buy Italy for 75% off.
yeah, tell us a little bit about that. You made, I mean, 75% off for class one is pretty, I mean, that's insanely rare. So what were the details on that property?
So, I had no money in my account, but then I had this Netherlands property that nameless from the Guidebook Gaming. He had bought it, so that gave me some money all of a sudden, like $800. And so I actually was looking for your Italy property class one because I knew you had a really good discount on it. But sitting one spot ahead of yours was this ridiculous 75% discount. I'm like, ooh, that wasn't there before. I looked at it, I'm like, okay. I didn't even hesitate. I just snapped it up.
Yeah, I mean, that's because I'm guessing, so 75% off, that would have been at less than $5 a tile, right?
Yeah,
For Italy.
yeah. Hang on, I'll pull up exactly what it was. But yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, because
But
as you're pulling that up too, I mean, just pulling up Italy in general, there are barely things that are. I mean, there's about one page of non-class one that is a better discount than that. So
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, and you're trying to get rid of your random property there. I was going to buy yours until I saw that one. I'm like, oh, sorry, dude.
yeah, that's fair. I don't blame you one bit for jumping on that other one. So
Yeah, so it was $850 for 210 tiles, so like $4 a tile.
wow, that is insane. I mean, at that point, for a nation like Italy, it almost doesn't matter where it is. And at least, yeah, I'm pulling up the property that you bought right now. It's a large part of a city. So I think it's a smaller. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not super
yeah,
familiar with Italy, but
it's not like on a pier, and but there's other tile purchases around it, so it's not out by itself in the middle of nowhere.
exactly, yeah. And it's 233 tiles, and they're also all together. So yeah, definitely something to be said about that. Or wait, am I thinking of the right one?
No, it's
Okay.
210 tiles, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I've listed it at 1,300, and I bet it sells within the next month.
Oh, right, right. Yep. Yeah, I think that you'll be right about that.
Yours will sell first, though. Someone's going to snap that up soon. It's too good a value.
I hope so, because I got to execute this game plan. The only other thing, and I'll talk to you about some of your other purchases in a second. The only other thing I've really been doing is kind of dipping my toes back into trying to flip some property. I really haven't been flipping. I mean, I've sold properties, but they were things I bought a while ago that I then just eventually moved on from, which I think is different. But um, I really hadn't truly bought property with the express intent of flipping it since late January when class 2 basically plummeted. And anybody holding on to, say, class 2 Germany is potentially still holding on to that same class 2 Germany. It's just been very hard to move some of those properties that were on the market from that time in the more expensive nations. But now I think it's finally sort of balanced out. So I have bought a few properties truly with the express intent of making $5 or $10. So we'll see how it goes. And I know that Hazy, you've got some pretty fun ideas about a competition we can have related to flipping that we might get going here next week. So I'm going to get some practice in. I'm going to practice with a few properties on my profile before we get
Yeah,
that rolling.
just let me know when you're ready, and I'll own you.
It's all right. Well, I think maybe we'll do that for we'll lay the groundwork for that out for Monday's podcast.
Yeah,
Monday,
because
yeah.
we have a guest on Friday, so we don't want to involve him in that. Although he would crush us.
Yes, well, he's a flipper of an even higher caliber, but we'll let you hype that up at the end of the show. But I've been talking about my own properties and my own strategy far too much. So Hazy, other than that big Class 1 Italy purchase, what else have you been doing?
So a lot of little stuff, $100 here, $50 here, basically just as many tiles accumulating as I can. I did. Okay, so the one thing I did do, and one thing I'm gonna say, if you want to flip property, find I don't know how to say this, Liechtenstein.
Oh,
Buy,
Liechtenstein, yeah.
Liechtenstein. Buy some. If you can buy Liechtenstein for at face value or any discount at all, it will sell quickly. Because
Yeah.
every time I bought a class 1 there at like 0% or 10% discount and I've listed it for 50% profit on my end, and it always sells. I'm like, I can't hold on to it.
Yeah, and I mean with some of those nations too, there's, if you think about it, if there are enough people out there that are just strictly buying and holding, and I think this is what we've seen with China and with some of the cheaper nations as well. We talked about this. If you've got people holding like 60 or 70,000 of those class 1 tiles and truly just sitting on them, it's going to be really, really hard to find stuff under market value in not much time, because basically 70% of the class 1 is just gone. And as more people buy and hold, so you see countries like St. Kitts and Nevis, like very hard to get under under market value class 1 there.
Yeah, and I see people in Gen Chat, which is definitely not the good place to go if you're trying to like get valid opinions. But saying nothing sells anymore, but I'm just looking at my sales transactions. I have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 17 sales in the last 6 days. So stuff sells. You just have to buy good property.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that a lot of people ask for far too much cash for what their properties are, because I've specifically been making a push to sell, but I've sold hundreds of properties in the last 2 weeks. So yeah, I think people just have poor pricing, or they're not looking at what they're offering relative to that class and that nation.
Yeah, and so there's a little strategy that we can get into is look at I just blindly list mine for 50% ROI, which is probably a mistake in some cases. So the property that Nameless bought for me, I probably should have had that higher. It was too good a discount, which is why he grabbed it. But if I get 50% ROI, I'm happy. So I'm like, whatever. But
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Keep going.
But I was going to say that the strategy is look at what that country is being going for in the marketplace. So, for example, Liechtenstein, you can see that there's nothing at a discount. So you can put it at face value, and it's probably going to sell, even if you paid 20 cents a tile for it. So just look at what the marketplace is dictating at that time.
Yeah, and just looking, so I have it pulled up as well. There are only 7 Class 1 properties that are listed below 100% over market value. I know that phrasing is weird, but basically, as Hazy said, there's nothing under market value. And by the time you get just a little way down the page, you're talking about 100 and 200% markups. And beyond that, Liechtenstein in particular, you can see it only actually has 3 pages of listings, which
Yeah, like
for, if you
I'm absolutely tempted to buy those 2 properties that are there right now, the 24% and 34%, because they're so discounted compared to the rest of the page.
exactly. I mean, if you were to buy those top 3, let's just say, which would be $129 right now, and admittedly, it would look crappy for your return on investment, like on your profile. But at that point, there would be basically nothing on the marketplace that's
Less
you
than
know
100%, yeah.
marked over market value. Yeah, because I'm looking at like the next one after those top 3. New land value $10, listed at 21. I mean, that's how crazy Class 1 is in that particular nation.
But
So,
why is such a big difference between class 1 and class 2? Look at class 2. It's 35. There's the one at the top, 35% off.
well, that's what this is what we've been talking about with, again, I know I've been harping on it, but with like, you look at China and then you look at, say, a nation like Ireland. So let's use Ireland as an example of the contrary, where basically your class 2s are the best you can get is 60% off, and your class 1s the best you can get is 30% off, right? So
Right.
that your gaps there aren't that large. And I don't really know what's truly driving this. Part of me thinks that Liechtenstein has a reputation as being small. Now it's not as small as some of the particularly crazy micronations, but by European standards, it's very, very small. And so it's possible that maybe the folks that bought early there were really fixated on holding. And now, because of that, there's this weird disparity between the price of class 1 and class 2. I mean, that's obviously, I'm kind of just speculating here, but there's got to be something that's driving class 1 scarcity.
Hey, Kangy,
Yeah.
do you have $1,150? You want to go in on this $2,300 class 1 in China?
I have $1,140 in my account right now.
That's 2,300 at 28% discount in China. That's the best I've seen there.
That's a good point. It's under $6.
I'm sorry. This is not good podcast material, but
No, this is we'll negotiate on the back end. But
yeah.
but I mean, it just goes to show how crazy some class 1 is in some nations versus, I mean, we're talking in the middle of the podcast about maybe buying a $2,500 property because it's just that rare.
Yeah, I mean, just it's 20% more discounted than any other property there.
Yeah, more than $1 off per
And
tile off
but
the
like
list
you
there.
were saying, the reason I went to go look at China just to kind of show the contrast, and like you go to class 2, and the top class 2 is 75% off. That's a huge gap.
Right. I actually bought some China class 2 earlier today at 78% off for just that reason. I mean, class 1, the property we were just talking about, yeah, it's discounted, but obviously it requires a massive commitment. It's a 4-figure purchase. So realistically, if you're somebody that's got $50, class 1 is just, I mean, it's basically impossible other than buying,
Yeah, because you're not going to.
single tiles.
Yeah, you're not going to get small tile plots at big discounts.
No.
It's always the big properties that have the big discounts.
Exactly. So, I think that'll be a really interesting thing to see. Yet again, we're talking about this, what the true perk difference is on class 1 versus class 2 and class 3, because again, I just have a hard time thinking that class 1 in China is going to live up to this price difference. But it'll be interesting to see. Some people have speculated that if there is a crypto tie-in, that it's going to actually be based on the new land value of the properties you own. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case, but you get on these heavy discounts in class 2 and class 3. I don't know. That could be a huge benefit.
Yeah, so like what I'm actually thinking though is buying those class 2 in Liechtenstein, those 2 that are pretty discounted, just because I'm like, I think I could flip them.
Yeah, and especially if you're, one thing that we're not even touching on here is how many of these quote unquote discounted properties are not really that great, because I'm looking at the class twos in Liechtenstein. We got 1 tile, 3 tiles, 4 tiles. So you buying those top two, there's not a whole lot of other decent properties until you get further down the page. If you're looking for something a little more substantive, I'm not trying to,
Yeah,
we've
no,
all
and
got different budgets, but I think a
that was
lot of
kind
us
of
want larger
yeah that
plots.
yeah that was kind of the reason I saw 314, but at the top's that 48 one, which is appealing to me.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, this is it's such a big question, and it's kind of crazy to continue. I mean, it is what it is, but it's wild to operate with this sort of blind spot and continue to try to operate in this market space. Like today I was buying class 2 most of the day, and I don't even know if that's the right decision. Like
Yeah,
I think it is, and I've argued myself into believing that. Not that I mean, I am a huge class 1 guy, so I'm in no way ever going to dispute that strategy, but just from a strict value perspective, I've been focusing on these class 2s, but I just don't know if it's right.
yeah. I mean, and it's a dilemma because we don't know where the value is going to be. But I tend to think that no matter what world we're in, that there's not a 50% gap between class 1 worth value and class 2 worth value.
I totally agree. I think that that's a fair sort of rule to go by. Is if you start seeing that margin between class 1 and class 2, then maybe it's time to focus on the class 2 and lower.
All right. So one thing I did notice this week is someone is threatening my empire. I'm not happy about this.
So we've alluded to your empire a bit, but I don't know if we've ever really dove into what your plans are. So why don't you kind of set the stage for this betrayal that you're in the middle of?
Well, yeah, and the reason I'm bringing this up now is because I secretly have plans for some type of mega city, but I've just kind of been holding off on it just because I'm busy with other things, and I don't want to have to organize it and do all that stuff that comes with a mega city. But I have plans for it, but it's kind of been quiet. But someone went and bought a lot of tiles in Armenia and drove the price up 6 cents a tile. So now, if I want to do this mega city, I need to do it before the tiles get too cost prohibitive. They're still under 60 cents a tile.
Not too bad.
So what I am planning, I have a background in professional gambling, professional poker. I have good contacts in the industry. And I know there's other mega cities that plan on doing some type of gambling endeavor, and it's possible we won't even be allowed to do it. But I'm thinking there's going to be a way that we can. So my plan is to have basically a poker centric mega city with entertainment, adult entertainment, maybe some fun, but. So I haven't really advertised it at all. Never really said anything about it. So we're gonna do a giveaway. We're gonna start populating this mega city slowly but surely. So what I'm gonna do this week is I'm gonna post the link for a parcel. It's basically a square. If you buy one tile inside, it's basically a road around the square. If you buy one tile inside the square, I'm going to enter you into a giveaway for a big tile plot in that mega city. I don't have a name for it yet. Just kind of might just be that my name is Human Megacity. That might just be what we end up doing. But it's going to be fun. Going to be some gambling, some women, some sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Maybe no drugs because it's virtual, but you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
So I'll put the link in the show notes. Go buy one tile, 60 cents, and you'll be entered into the drawing for the giveaway. We'll do that sometime next week. Give people a week chance to listen to this podcast and buy a tile. Uh, if you so I'll be able to see who buys the tiles just by looking on the map. But if you want to make sure, just send me an email at earth2news@gmail.com, all spelled out, and I'll verify that entry. And someone's going to win a nice chunk of land.
Yeah, I'm really excited for people to see what you've bought out there, because it's actually a pretty wild amount of tiles that you've purchased, and they're in a really cool spot. I'm really excited to see what you'll be able to turn that land into. And I actually have a little parcel out there myself, so I'm also looking to get a little bit more hazy Armenia Vegas before whoever
Yeah.
it is that's been buying all the Armenia drives the price up more.
Yeah, it's secluded around a lake. Just was a nice plot of land that I randomly found one day, and I'm like, I think I'll start a mega city.
Yeah, I highly recommend joining this giveaway. Anybody listening, definitely get in on this and take some of my money, because Hazy is definitely gonna clean me out on the poker table, but I'm pretty bad, guys. So I expect all of you to take whatever money I bring to the table.
I like the sound of that.
Free money. Well, since we're talking about money, I do, and this is a bit of a clunky transition, but this whole enterprise so far, as we wait for additional phases to roll out, all we're talking about is money, how to make money off of our land, and some people have turned to even more creative ways to get money out of Earth 2. And one thing we've seen this week, and we've actually seen two of them rise up, are the beginning of Earth 2 trading cards. And Hazy, do you know? Can you share a little bit about what you know about those? Are is that something that piques your interest at all?
So it doesn't actually, but I see people that are interested in it, and it's giving people something to do while Earth 2 is kind of in this stagnant, dormant phase while they're trying to figure out how to integrate this crypto stuff, how to get into phase 2. And the problem with this new whole GoChain thing is it's going to really slow down things, because to implement that's going to take some time. So this whole NFT cards, things of E2 personalities and characters, is something for people to spend money on, talk about. And E2.news was actually, as I was leaving them, that was their big project push, is to get out this site doing what they felt was a higher quality version. And so they're kind of competing against each other, which is an argument to be had about whether that's thing. But no one owns the copyright to make NFTs, so I'm fine with that. But it's just not for me.
Yeah, and I don't think it's for me either, but I'm with you. I think that anything that gets people excited and keeps people sort of occupied as we wait for more things that are from Earth 2 official to happen, that these are a good way for people to have fun and maybe make a little money, grab a collectible that could be because it's unofficial, I don't know what the long-term value would be, but there's something to be said about the fact that these are being made at the very beginning of what could be a pretty exciting project. So, yeah,
Yeah,
anything that's going on right now. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say anything going on right now is it's going to be sort of a relic of what we all got involved in at the very beginning here.
well, and the thing that really, I mean, while the excitement and anticipation of the game is what really keeps people going, what really is the backbone of the game right now is the community. It is the annoying gen chat and Discord. Even though there's times I just want to like never go back in there, I end up going back there because it's like a train wreck.
Yeah, and there are a lot of cool people, and it's a good way to connect with people, and if nothing else, learn what other people's strategies are, learn what is kind of trending in the marketplace. So
Yeah, and the private conversations I have just in DMs, like with you, with Meta, with Odyssey. I mean, I learned so much about the game. I learned so much about people's insights, and sometimes they give me a good scoop I can write on the news site. So that's always good too.
yeah, and to your point about communities being the backbone, I think that Hydra touched on it when we had him on, and that it's going to hold true. What's going to bring people into the metaverse again and again? There's going to be the games and the sort of assets people add to their properties, but with any video game, a lot of it has to do with the community and interacting with other people. So,
Which
um,
which, which ties into the strategy I've had the whole time is the landmarks don't matter. It's where the people are going to go that matters.
right. Which in some cases there's overlap there, and in other cases, landmarks are in some far-flung locale that people wouldn't naturally get to. But
What you mean, like a target in the middle of the Nevada desert?
yeah, but now, I mean, hey, we're promoting it here. People are going to start to learn that it exists, and it is. I had no idea that was out there, but when I looked at it on your profile, I will admit it's like you can really see that from quite a ways.
Oh
It is,
yeah.
it's got to be huge at the ground level. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. It is a cool thing though.
So I know third-party for-profit websites are going to be a big deal in R2 because that's going to be what really drives the end-game economy. It's going to be the people designing the buildings, people building the buildings, people mining resources for you, people doing your marketing copy. I mean, there's all kinds of avenues that you can have to make money as a third party on R2. How much do you think R2 is going to work with these parties to integrate them into the game?
Well, I think that really depends on what the third parties are truly doing. So I think that if you're making like Earth 2 apparel, but and not necessarily using copyrighted images, right? Because I think if you're using the logo, that's its whole own thing. But if you're monetizing things around people's guilds or something like that, that I don't know that Shane and the team will necessarily step in to stop that or even step in to integrate it, right? I think they might just sort of let something like that exist. Whereas some of these sites, like maybe the dot market site, which has been the subject of a lot of controversy because it does give users an advantage in finding some of the better deals, something like that, which gives a gameplay advantage and also frankly uses elements that Earth 2 official can and should implement within their own website, um, that they might, take steps to curb those or, maybe work with those sorts of sites because there's some potential like encroachment and overlap there, if that makes sense. But do you feel the same way? Do you think that they'll sort of handle these things on a case by case or sort of, at least for lack of
Yeah,
a better term, industry by industry basis?
yeah, I do. I think as long as the third party's not doing anything to harm the users of Earth-2 and aren't infringing on the Earth-2 copyright, that they're going to work with them and be happy to have them around.
Right. I mean, I think that it's a cliche, but they earn that status for a reason. Like all publicity is good publicity. There's a limit to that. You don't want people doing anything crazy, uh, like heinous in the name of Earth 2, but people getting like apparel out there that is sort of ends up being low level viral marketing or on the street marketing. I mean, why would Earth 2 have an issue with that? Somebody wearing a t-shirt representing a guild on the street, if at worst it does nothing, and at best it maybe brings somebody into the fold. So
Yeah, for sure.
it'll be interesting to see, because as it continues to get more popular, you'd have to assume that more and more people try to do things like this, because right now I think that we have a lot of individual folks that are passionate about Earth 2 and have some programming skills or have some other sort of entrepreneurial skills that they're starting to do this. But as if this does continue to get more popular, like I expect and hope it to, uh, you're going to see more of these things pop up, especially if we don't see, more rigid guidelines from Shane on what is allowed and what's not. You're going to see a lot more of these websites popping up. I mean, we had 2 cards launch this week. What does next month hold? We could see even more stuff pop up.
Yeah, and I mean, you have merchandise, people. I mean, there was that little controversial shop from Dork Slayer last month that where he was printing basically low t-shirts and coffee cups with other people's images. So that kind of thing's going to pop up every now and then.
Exactly. Yeah. So it'll be really interesting to see if we do see a bit more guidance or rule making as far as what is allowed and what's not, or what's maybe we see more things added to the terms of service. But I gotta say, for now, I'm impressed with people's ingenuity and their creativity and some of the things that people can put together, because I'm very outside of that sort of creative realm. So more power to those that are designing these cards and working on some of these other projects.
Yeah, for sure. So we're about to wrap up, but we do have a guest coming on Friday, so I'm looking forward to that. We're gonna have My Store. He's number 3 on the leaderboard with 201,000 net worth. I did notice when I clicked on his profile, though, it looks like he's liquidated some. So that'll be something interesting to ask him about and talk to him about.
Yeah, well, I think that's like with the leaderboard, right? It's how much money you've spent, and I've heard that Mysore is a world-class flipper. So perhaps the profile
Oh,
is just a
yeah.
reflection of
Yeah, that would make
just
sense.
how talented Mysore has been. So that, but I cannot wait to pick Mysore's brain about marketplace experiences when they got into this, and sort of any tips that they're willing to share without sharing the state secrets.
Yeah, so he had a good interview with Two Odyssey Walker. So that kind of is what kind of motivated. So I won't try to duplicate that, but I mean we'll obviously touch on some of the same subjects.
Right.
So should be an interesting show, and pretty much that's all I got this week. You got anything else to add?
No, I'm just very excited to talk to Mysore, and as usual, it's a pleasure to talk to you, Hazy, and can't wait to keep on doing these podcasts.
All right. Well, this was the My Name is Human podcast brought to you by Earth2News.com. This is an Earth 2.0 podcast, and until next time, my name is Human Hazy.
My name is Human Kangy.
Get up off your knees, girl. Get up. Stand face to face with your God, and find out what you are. Hello, my name is you.